Welcome to my personal ideology of education. To develop this, I first had to look at what an ideology actually is. Matheson explains it to be a package of educational ideas held by a group of people about formal arrangements of education. This includes what topics should be taught, how they should be taught, when and where. An ideology of education should also seek to discover what it is believed children should get out of education. I believe that what a child should have achieved by the time they reach the adult world is a sustainable well-being and happiness, a confidence in themselves and their own beliefs, and the skills they need to carry themselves through life. Looking at these in more detail, we can see that what I mean by skills is that children should leave schooling with the ability to get a job with the qualifications and determination to do so. It is important to note that this is not the sole focus of education. They should also gain the ability to be independent regardless of their future. They should understand concepts such as bills, housing, cooking and family, alongside things like money and sexual education, which could be argued not to be approached well enough in current educational policies. This leads me to believe that the current government, who deem these not to be core subjects, have the goal of achieving high grades instead of teaching individuals how to survive and thrive. Secondly, we look at confidence, where I believe that pupils should be able to develop their own line of thinking and ideas about the world and have the confidence about those ideas. Looking, for example, at ideas about religion, how can we claim to be progressive if we tell children in secular schools that they can only experience what we can teach and offer them? This goes broader than just faith. How can we expect children to be tolerant if we don't allow them to experience other cultures? How can we expect them to also develop their own lines of thinking and learning if they don't experience different learning styles? So it could be in our best interest to have some outdoor learning, to do some new activities often, and not to box students in with structure. Society can only make people progress and change through allowing those individuals to expand their minds and giving them the opportunity to share that with others. In terms of happiness, children should be allowed to enjoy their childhood and not be pressured to gain knowledge. The idea that children are having fun childhood memories squandered by being forced into telling adults about their testing aged as young as 6 is awful in my opinion. Their imaginations are being halted from less play, and we are letting them down by taking them from excitable youths to being anxious about school. In order for happiness to be sustainable, children need to enjoy school, so that they have a thirst for learning in order to gain the skills and confidence to thrive after education. Where do these ideas fit into the existing ideology? Well, Dufour explains that there are 3 main educational ideologies: individual, societal, and knowledge-based. Individual ideologies are full of ideas about being actively involved in learning, socialization, and really being child-centered in its approach and viewing teachers as partners rather than dictators of the classroom. Societal ideologies focus on combining the flexible and creative side of children with skills and knowledge, so it really links to learning in the real life in the world outside of education's classroom walls. Knowledge-based ideologies are not something I align myself with, as you can see. Although I do deem knowledge important for children to gain, the ideology is very success-focused and is actually described by the Department of Education as being academically rigorous, which when combined with aspects of being conservative, traditional and disciplined, makes for a stressful educational experience for pupils. To look more at what I agree with is that of a democratic education, of which Dewey's ideas fit very well. He looks at education for being responsible for developing moral and cooperative human beings, that pupils can take responsibility for their own learning, that personal and social growth should be hugely encouraged, and that personal happiness should not be at the expense of others. This is why I think lunchtimes and playtimes should not be rushed and students should have much more control over what they learn. Lastly, we need to look at how my ideology would actually be applied. Firstly, I do not think that testing should be necessary until secondary level. Given the requirements for qualifications and grades as an intelligence measure currently, examinations do need to take place at some point, but should be intertwined with coursework so students can take their time and own style of working to achieve those grades. In primary schools, reviews by their teachers should be enough to decide how well they are achieving. The idea of teachers as partners has been briefly looked at, but I feel it's vital that pupils look for help from their peers and families, but also still see teachers as those with expansive knowledge that can guide them through education and not push them. I really value the concept of Montessori-style primary schools, and even occasionally in secondary schools, where different areas are set up so children can choose the method in which they learn but still gain the knowledge needed. Among all of these new ideas, I do think the traditional format should be kept for some hard-hitting important topics such as sex education, ideas of discrimination like racism and homophobia, and the concept of feminism. The list is far more expensive than that, but due to the sensitive nature of these subjects, they do need a formal sit-down and teach structure, as they can't be experienced in an educationally fun way due to ethical concerns. When discussing subjects, I believe that, like the Summerhill School, we should allow children some liberation in choosing their lessons. Core lessons such as English, maths, and science would remain, but extras such as psychology, languages, history, etc. should be optional, with important topics such as wars and religions discussed as projects in PHSE and form times. I do think there should be extra lessons such as finance and economics made partially compulsory so that the key life skills can be properly learned. Thank you for listening to my personal ideology of education. Here is my reference list for anything cited.